Good day, doctor. My name is Sin Rou and my reference number is 298556. Today I present my work on the database and entities layer of our conference management system. My task was to import the SQL database into MySQL and generate the Java GPA entities that accurately represented the database schema. And these classes form the foundations of our backend and enabling the CRUD operations and preserving the database relationships. So now let's start with the user.java and an entity marks this as a JPA entity, and the add table maps it to the corresponding table in the database. And the primary key ID use the add ID and the add generated value for the automatic generations. The other fields includes the name, email, affiliations, and password hash are all mapped to their respective columns. So this is a simple entity without the relationships, making it easy to perform the basic CRUD operations. So next is the conference.java, and it represents a conference in the system with fields like name, acronym, year, start date, end date, submission deadline, notification date, and the PC member deadline. And the add log annotations is used for the value details to store the longer text. And this class demonstrates handling of different data types such as the local date and instant, and all columns are mapped with the add columns, including the constraint like the nullable equals to false or length. So next is the submission.java, and it represents paper submitted to the conference, and its submissions is linked to a conference using the many to one. While the add join columns maps the foreign key, and the add on delete ensure that the submissions are deleted if the conference is removed. Other than that, the fields include title, abstracts, file URL, and status are annotated with the column. This shows how JPA handles relationships, allowing the navigation from a submission to its conference in Java codes. So next is the user role.java, and it maps the many-to-many relationship between the users and roles. It uses add embedded ID for a composite key consisting of the user ID and the role ID, and the add map ID links each foreign key to the composite key, and the add many-to-one annotations map the relationship to user and role, while the add-on delete maintains the data integrity. So this class demonstrates the handling many-to-many relationship in JPA. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Good day, doctor. My name is Oon Jin En with number metric 298479. I was responsible for the repository layer. While my teammate defined the data model, my role was to build a persistent logic that allows our Java application to actually communicate with the MySQL database. To do this efficiently, I utilize Spring Data JPA, this part, to abstract away the low-level SQL complexity. So one detail case you will notice that is my repositories are defined as an interface but not the class, and the files appears like mostly empty. This is a deliberate architectural choice using the proxy patterns because the standard database operations like save or delete are repetitive. I don't need to write them manually. I simply define the interface as a contract. At runtime, Spring Boot detects its interface and automatically generates the implementation code in the memory. This saves us from writing hundreds of lines of boilerplate SQL. So, however, for specific business need, I define derived queries methods. Think of the repository as a translator. Instead of writing raw SQL, I define method using natural naming conventions such as find by acronyms and find by years. So the framework automatically translates this Java method into optimized SQL queries. This ensures our code is readable and minimizes the risk of SQL injection errors. I also make specific design choices regarding returns type to prevent crashes. For unique queries like finding conference by acronyms, I use the optional wrappers. This forces the service layer to handle empty cases, effectively prevent null pointer abstraction if a user isn't found. For box queries like finding conference by use, I use the list. This allows the system to gracefully handle anywhere from the 0 to 100 of results. Finally, the biggest challenge was to handle many-to-many relationships such as linking order to submissions. This table used composite primary keys, that is, two IDs combined. To handle this, I typed the repository to accept a custom ID class, that is auto submission ID class, rather than one simple integer. This ensures we can perform precise lookup on complex join tables without breaking data integrity. So in summary, my repository layer acts as the secure goalkeeper. It handles the SQL translation and error prevention, ensuring the service layer receives clean, usable data. Thank you.
Good day, Doctor. My name is Yon Yu Ki with metric number 298923. In this assignment, I am developing the service layer for the conference management system. The service layer is the core of the backend and where the actual business logic is implemented, and it acts as a bridge between the controller and the repository. I implemented the service classes for all the entities, the main entities such as the conference, users, submission, roles, and the payment. And then for each entity, I created a service interface, and then each define the what operation can be performed, such as get all the records, get by ID created, create, update, deleted. And next is service implement classes that I create. Is used for the real logic happens. I use the service annotation, repository injection, transaction safe operation, and error handling using the resource not found exception. Here are the one example of conference service work. So in this conference service implementation, creating a conference, the service will receive a JSON data from the controller, and it validates and it passes it to the repository, and then retrieving all the conference by using the find all, and then return the list to the controller, and controller respond with JSON, and then updating the conference. The service check if the ID exists. If not, throw the resource not found exception. It's yes. It updates only the change field and save the updated object into the database. And then delete a conference and check if the ID exists. If yes, we'll delete. If not, we'll return the exceptions. And this ensures the API behave reliable and safely. So I also created the implement exception handling. So I created a custom exception resource not found exception, and this provide meaningful errors message and standardized JSON error response and safer crowd operation. As a conclusion, implementing the business logic layer of our conference management system, ensuring clean backend structure, reliable crowd flows, proper error handling, and smooth communication between the controller and MySQL.
Good day, Doctor. My name is Chong Mun Kei with metric number 298767. Today, I would like to present the controller in this assignment. Since we have 20 tables in this assignment, so I will only briefly explain a few controller. Firstly, the auto submission controller. This controller will manage the data within the auto submission table in the database, and it includes all the CRUD methods such as the read, create, update, and also delete. And the difference within this method is the URL path and also the parameter. This path variable is the path parameter, and it uses like /user ID to find certain auto submission of this user, and also the request body for the create and also update. Another example that I want to show is the conference controller. This conference controller is used to control the conferences table in the database, and it also includes all the CRUD method and like the read, create, update, and also delete. And another method such as the get conference by year, it have different parameter like request param. This request param is the query parameter, and it used to filter the data. And how we will use like /year and also question mark. This the important in request param. The query parameter and the year that we want to search. And the path variable is used to find exactly the data. For this example, if we need to delete the conference with the ID 2, so we will directly /conferences/2, and we need to align with this path that we listed here. So I will now show the testing of the endpoints using the Postman application. For this example, if we need to search the conferences of the ID 2, so we enter the endpoint, then we show this data will show. And also next example is the filtration. And then all the conferences in the database within the year 2025, it will show out all the data. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Good day, doctor. My name is Beh Kah Meng. My train number is 299018. Today, I would like to present how to run the Docker. First, need to open the Docker desktop. Then I already open. Okay. Then cd to the folder that have Docker compose YML. And then which is cd. This cd cms. Okay. And then we need to log into the Docker with the command docker login. Okay. We need to read it. Then login success, then we need to pull the image from the Docker Hub to my machine with the command. This one. Which that have another machine that could have create these images, then push to Docker Hub. Then on my machine, we need to pull and got two images. First is the API, the second one is the MySQL. Second one, image. Then when the image is successful, we need to run or start the service that to rebuild the image first with the command with the command docker compose build. Okay. Also, we need to read the running pooling. Okay. A bit slow, sorry. When it rebuild the image successful, we need to run one more time the commands to make sure the container is running, because now it's still started, and we need the container is running, so we can test with our endpoint when the container is running. Okay, when it's running, we need to test with our project endpoint. First, we test with the user first. Okay, because the technical issue will be maybe found the database running the database first. So this one is our endpoint. We test one more. This is a user. Okay, then we test one more for conference. Okay, they run. And then we also can test a bit deep, maybe ID 2. Okay, can be sure. Okay, we can test another one for the last one for confirmation, permission. Okay, that's all for my presentation for how to run the Docker. Thank you, Doctor.